Not everyone realizes it, but Padre Pio revealed something that separates those who are closer to divine grace from the rest of the world. This hidden knowledge about cats in our homes is something most spiritual leaders avoided discussing. But Padre Pio was different. His courage to speak about the spiritual connection between our homes, our souls, and the animals we surround ourselves with might change your perspective forever. Today, I'm sharing with you an exclusive revelation that many spiritual seekers missed about Padre Pio's teachings. If you want to understand this teaching and how to apply it to your life, stay until the end, because the final revelation is the most essential one that could transform your home's spiritual energy completely. What Padre Pio knew about cats goes beyond what science can explain, touching on the mystical bond between the spiritual and physical worlds. His warnings weren't meant to frighten believers, but to prepare them for a deeper understanding of the invisible forces at work in our daily lives. Were you aware of this revelation from Padre Pio? Comment below which of his teachings has impacted your life the most. And if you're wondering whether having a cat affects your spiritual journey, I'll reveal the complete truth in just a few minutes. Did you know that some of Padre Pio's most profound teachings were kept from the public for decades? The Vatican only recently allowed certain revelations to become widely known, including his mysterious warnings about household pets. The connection between your home's spiritual atmosphere and the creatures that inhabit it is something most people overlook. But by the end of this video, you'll see your living space in an entirely new light. Is there a divine purpose behind Padre Pio's warnings about cats? Stay with me to discover the surprising answer that might change how you view your feline companions forever. Padre Pio understood something that few comprehend about the spiritual nature of animals, especially cats. His words can transform your spirituality forever. This isn't just another teaching. It's a window into the unseen world that surrounds us every day. The mystic saint, known for his stigmata and miraculous abilities, often spoke of spiritual discernment. He could see beyond the physical realm. He perceived energies. He recognized spiritual presences that most people cannot detect. Padre Pio once told a devotee, "Pay attention to the animals that are drawn to your home. They are not there by accident." This statement holds profound meaning when we consider his specific warnings about cats. In the village of San Giovanni Rotondo, locals still remember how Padre Pio would sometimes stop and observe cats with unusual intensity. He wasn't merely looking at them. He was seeing something beyond their physical form. The answers aren't always clear, but those who are attentive perceive the signs. Padre Pio believed that certain animals serve as conduits between the spiritual and physical worlds. Cats, with their mysterious nature and nocturnal habits, held a special place in his spiritual observations. The eyes of a cat, he reportedly said, can reveal much about the spiritual state of a home. This cryptic statement puzzled many of his followers at the time. What could he possibly mean? Throughout history, cats have been both revered and feared across different cultures. The ancient Egyptians worshipped them as divine beings. Medieval Europe associated them with witchcraft. Modern science recognizes their remarkable sensory abilities that exceed human perception. But Padre Pio's perspective was uniquely spiritual. He wasn't superstitious about cats. Rather, he recognized their unique spiritual sensitivity. "They see what we cannot," he once explained to a close disciple. "They react to presences that remain invisible to most humans." This sensitivity is what led to his warnings, not because cats themselves were dangerous or evil, but because of what their behavior might reveal about your home's spiritual atmosphere. When a cat stares fixedly at an empty corner, when it hisses at seemingly nothing, when it refuses to enter certain rooms, Padre Pio suggested these behaviors might indicate spiritual disturbances that humans cannot detect. "Watch how your cat behaves," he advised one troubled family. "Its actions may reveal what prayers are needed in your home." This perspective isn't about fear, but awareness. It's about recognizing that our physical world intersects with spiritual realities in ways we often fail to notice. Padre Pio's gift of spiritual sight allowed him to perceive these intersections clearly. His warnings about cats weren't meant to make people abandon their beloved pets, but rather to pay attention to the subtle signs around them. In one documented case, a woman complained to Padre Pio that her home felt oppressive despite regular prayers. His unexpected question was, "How does your cat behave in the house?" When she described her cat's refusal to enter certain rooms, he immediately advised specific prayers for those areas. The spiritual world, according to Padre Pio, isn't separate from our daily lives. It permeates everything around us. Cats, with their heightened sensitivity, can sometimes serve as indicators of this invisible reality. Do you believe this teaching of Padre Pio is still relevant today? Share your opinion in the comments. Have you ever noticed your cat behaving strangely in ways that seem to confirm these insights? Now let's explore more deeply what exactly Padre Pio revealed about cats and why his observations matter for your spiritual well-being. What Padre Pio actually revealed about cats is both profound and practical. At its core, his teaching wasn't about fearing cats, but understanding their unique spiritual sensitivity and what it might reveal about our own homes and lives. Cats, Padre Pio explained, possess a spiritual perception that humans have largely lost. They can sense presences and energies that most people cannot detect without deep prayer and contemplation. This gift of discernment is what made cats significant in Padre Pio's spiritual worldview. The most direct warning he gave was this: if your cat appears disturbed, restless, or fixates on empty spaces in your home, do not dismiss it. These may be signs of spiritual disorder that requires attention. He wasn't suggesting cats were somehow evil or dangerous. Quite the opposite. He saw them as potential spiritual allies. Maria Concilia, a woman who visited Padre Pio in 1962, shared a remarkable testimony that has been preserved in the archives of San Giovanni Rotondo. She came to the saint troubled by unexplained phenomena in her home: objects moving, strange sounds, and a persistent feeling of heaviness. Before she could even describe these occurrences in detail, Padre Pio asked her, "How does your cat behave in your bedroom?" Surprised by this unexpected question, she replied that her cat refused to enter that room despite having previously slept there regularly. Padre Pio nodded knowingly and said, "Your cat senses what you cannot see. The room needs to be blessed, and you need to pray there more often." After following his advice, not only did the disturbances cease, but her cat also returned to the bedroom. This account demonstrates how Padre Pio viewed cats as natural indicators of spiritual health within a home. Another key aspect of his teaching concerned cats' remarkable ability to absorb energies. "Notice where your cat chooses to rest," he advised one family. "They are drawn to places of peace and light, but they can also place themselves in locations of discord to absorb negative energies." This observation suggests cats may instinctively work to restore spiritual harmony. Padre Pio warned against misinterpreting a cat's behavior as merely animal instinct. What appears as simple animal behavior often has spiritual significance, he explained. The Creator has given different gifts of perception to different creatures. Di Francesco Giorgino, a longtime resident of San Giovanni Rotondo, recounted how Padre Pio once stopped him as he was describing problems in his marriage. "You mentioned that your cats fight constantly now, though they once were peaceful," Padre Pio said. "The disharmony between the animals reflects the disharmony between husband and wife. Restore peace in your hearts, and you will see peace return to all who dwell in your home." This teaching extended beyond just cats themselves to the relationship between humans and their feline companions. How you treat the creatures in your care reveals much about your spiritual state, Padre Pio cautioned. Those who show respect and kindness to animals, recognizing them as God's creation, demonstrate a heart open to all forms of divine love. Perhaps most surprisingly, Padre Pio suggested that cats could assist in prayer. Some souls find it difficult to achieve stillness in prayer, he noted. Observing a cat, its patience, its attentiveness, its ability to remain completely present, can teach valuable lessons for contemplative prayer. This insight shows that his view of cats went far beyond superstition to recognizing their potential spiritual role. Sister Brigitte McKenna, who met Padre Pio shortly before his death, recalls him saying, "The animals that share our homes share in our spiritual journey. They are affected by our prayers, our conflicts, and our blessings. This is especially true of cats, who are more attuned to the invisible." One of the most practical warnings Padre Pio offered was this: if your cat suddenly avoids you, examine your conscience. Animals sense hardness of heart and inner turmoil. This remarkable insight suggests that our pets might respond not just to our external behavior, but to our internal spiritual state. Father Alessio Parente, who assisted Padre Pio for many years, documented how the saint would sometimes suggest that troubled visitors pay attention to their cat's behavior when they returned home. "The way your cat responds to you after confession and prayer will show you if true change has begun within," he would say. Have you ever experienced something similar to these teachings of Padre Pio? Share your experience in the comments. Has your cat ever behaved in ways that seem to confirm these spiritual insights? Now let's explore how you can apply Padre Pio's wisdom about cats in your daily life to enhance your spiritual awareness and create a more harmonious home environment. How can you apply Padre Pio's teachings about cats in your everyday life? Let's explore practical ways to implement this wisdom to enhance your spiritual awareness and create a more harmonious home environment. First, Padre Pio encouraged mindful observation. "Watch your cat without distraction," he advised one devotee. "Notice its moments of alertness, its periods of calm, the places it avoids, and the spaces where it rests peacefully." This simple practice of observation can reveal much about the spiritual atmosphere of your home. Try this. Spend 15 minutes each day simply observing your cat's behavior without interruption. Note any patterns that emerge. Does your cat avoid certain areas of your home? Is there a particular room where it seems most at peace? These observations can be valuable spiritual indicators. Maria Castellano, a woman who implemented this practice after meeting Padre Pio in 1965, shared how it transformed her awareness. "I noticed my cat would never enter our guest room, though it freely roamed everywhere else. Following Padre Pio's advice, I began praying in that room daily and had it blessed. Within weeks, not only did my cat begin to enter, but visitors commented on how much more peaceful that room felt." Second, Padre Pio suggested using your cat's behavior as a prompt for prayer. "When your cat seems disturbed," he explained, "take it as an invitation to pray for your home and family. This doesn't mean attributing supernatural meaning to every feline mood swing, but rather developing spiritual awareness through the natural signals around us." Antonio Brosio, a shopkeeper from Naples, recounted how this practice helped his family. "Our cat began behaving strangely, hissing at empty corners and refusing to sleep in its usual spots. Remembering Padre Pio's teaching, we began a family prayer routine, focusing especially on peace and protection for our home. Within days, our cat's behavior normalized, and we felt a tangible lifting of tension we hadn't even fully recognized was there." Third, create sacred spaces that benefit both you and your cat. Designate areas in your home for prayer and meditation, Padre Pio recommended. You may find your cat naturally drawn to these places once they're established. Many who followed this advice report their cats often join them during prayer times, seeming to appreciate the calm, centered energy. Fourth, Padre Pio emphasized the connection between how we treat animals and our spiritual growth. "Show kindness and respect to the creatures in your care," he taught. "This nurtures compassion in your soul." This teaching reminds us that spiritual development isn't separate from our daily interactions with all living beings. Dr. Elena Rossini, a veterinarian who was deeply influenced by Padre Pio's teachings, shared, "I've observed that people who treat their cats with genuine respect and affection tend to have more balanced, peaceful homes. It's not just about the animal's welfare. There's a reciprocal spiritual benefit that affects the entire household." Fifth, practice spiritual discernment regarding your cat's behavior. Padre Pio cautioned against two extremes: dismissing all unusual animal behavior as meaningless or attributing supernatural significance to every quirk. "Wisdom lies in discernment," he said. "Pray for the ability to distinguish between ordinary animal behavior and signs that require spiritual attention." Father Paolo Covino, who studied Padre Pio's teachings on animals, explains it this way: "The saint taught that we should neither be superstitious about our pets' behaviors nor completely ignore patterns that might indicate spiritual disturbances. Instead, we should approach these observations with a prayerful, discerning mind." Sixth, use your relationship with your cat as a mirror for self-reflection. How your cat responds to you can reveal aspects of your inner state that you might not recognize, Padre Pio noted. This teaching invites us to consider how our spiritual and emotional condition affects those around us, even our pets. Gabriella Pontecorvo implemented this practice and shared her experience. "During a period when I was harboring resentment toward a family member, I noticed my normally affectionate cat becoming distant, specifically with me. This prompted me to examine my conscience more deeply. After reconciliation and confession, my relationship with both my relative and my cat improved remarkably." Seventh, cultivate a peaceful home environment that benefits all its inhabitants. A home filled with prayer, forgiveness, and love creates an atmosphere where both humans and animals thrive, Padre Pio taught. Many followers report that after establishing regular prayer routines and addressing family conflicts, their cats became noticeably more relaxed and affectionate. The Lombardi family from Rome shared how transformative this approach was. After implementing daily family prayer and working to resolve ongoing tensions between family members, not only did our relationships improve, but our previously skittish cat became remarkably calm and began spending more time in our company. Have you tried applying any of these practices in your home? How was your experience? Comment below and share your story. Now let's reflect on how these teachings connect to your personal spiritual journey and what transformation might be possible when you integrate Padre Pio's wisdom about cats into your daily life. Take a moment now to reflect on your own spiritual journey and how it might intersect with Padre Pio's surprising insights about cats. This teaching invites us to see beyond the obvious and recognize the subtle spiritual dimensions of our everyday experiences. What if Padre Pio were sitting beside you now, observing how you interact with your home, your loved ones, and yes, even your cat? What might he say about your spiritual journey? Would he point out areas where you've been blind to important spiritual signals around you? Padre Pio often told his spiritual children, "The divine speaks to us in countless ways, but we must develop eyes to see and ears to hear." The humble cat in your home might be one such messenger you've overlooked. Consider this possibility. Your cat's behavior might be reflecting aspects of your spiritual life that need attention. When was the last time you truly examined the atmosphere of your home from a spiritual perspective? Are there tensions, conflicts, or negative energies that you've grown accustomed to, but that your cat still reacts to? One woman named Isabella shared a powerful testimony after applying Padre Pio's teachings. "For months, my cat refused to enter my home office where I worked long hours. I dismissed it as just a cat being a cat. After learning about Padre Pio's teachings, I realized that room had become a place of stress, anxiety, and sometimes anger due to my work pressures. I began blessing the room daily and consciously transforming my attitude while working. Gradually, not only did my cat start spending time with me there, but my work itself became more peaceful and productive. Padre Pio believed that spiritual sensitivity is something we can cultivate. Prayer sharpens the senses of the soul, he would say. What was once invisible becomes visible to the heart that seeks God earnestly. Perhaps your relationship with your cat could become an unexpected pathway to developing this spiritual sensitivity. Ask yourself these questions. Have you been attentive to the spiritual atmosphere of your home? Have you noticed how it affects not just you, but all living beings within it? Do you take time for prayer and blessing in each room? Have you addressed lingering conflicts, resentments, or negative patterns that create spiritual discord? Father Domenico Marchesi, who documented many of Padre Pio's teachings, noted, "The saint believed our homes should be sanctuaries of peace." When he counseled families, he often addressed the spiritual state of their homes as a critical factor in their overall well-being. Your cat, with its heightened sensitivity, might be the barometer of how well you're achieving this ideal. The transformation Padre Pio invites us to is multifaceted. It begins with awareness, noticing what our animal companions might be revealing. It continues with discernment, distinguishing between ordinary animal behavior and potential spiritual indicators. And it culminates in action, addressing through prayer, blessing, and change behavior the spiritual needs of our homes. Maria Luisa Facino recalled how Padre Pio once told her, "Your home is not merely walls and furniture, it is a living space filled with the energy of those who dwell there. When you pray, you purify this space. When you love, you sanctify it. When you harbor negativity, you darken it. Your cat feels all of this more keenly than you do. Do you sense that you need a change in your spiritual perspective? This teaching about cats might be exactly the path you've been seeking, an invitation to view your daily life through new eyes and recognize the sacred in the ordinary." Another devotee of Padre Pio, Giovanni Pastorelli, shared, "Following the saint's advice changed everything for me. I began to see my home as sacred space and my cat as a spiritual companion rather than just a pet. I started blessing each room regularly and paying attention when my cat seemed unsettled. This practice led me to discover and address spiritual issues I hadn't even been aware of before." Padre Pio often emphasized that spiritual transformation happens in the context of everyday life. Sanctity isn't found on mountain peaks or in isolated deserts, but in your kitchen, your bedroom, your workplace. The cat curled up on your sofa might be a divinely provided helper on this journey to everyday sanctity. Consider also how your cat's natural qualities might be teaching you spiritual lessons. Padre Pio pointed out, "Observe how a cat waits patiently, how it pays complete attention to what matters, how it rests fully when it rests and focuses entirely when it focuses. These are qualities many Christians struggle to develop in their spiritual lives." Alessandro Minelli, a spiritual director influenced by Padre Pio, explains, "The saint saw in cats natural contemplatives, creatures capable of complete presence and attentiveness. He believed they could model for us the kind of spiritual awareness we often lack." Do you feel a stirring to deepen your spiritual life? To become more attentive to the divine presence that permeates your home? To create a sanctuary of peace that blesses everyone and every creature who dwells there? This teaching about cats might be the unexpected doorway to that transformation. Which moment in your life did you feel God's presence most strongly? Share your testimony in the comments. Has your relationship with your cat ever seemed to connect with your spiritual experiences? Your story might inspire others on their own journey. Now, let's bring all these insights together and discover how to integrate Padre Pio's wisdom about cats into a life of deeper spiritual awareness and harmony. As we conclude our journey through Padre Pio's remarkable insights about cats, let's bring together these profound teachings into a cohesive spiritual understanding that can transform your daily life. Padre Pio's wisdom reveals that the world around us is far more interconnected and spiritually alive than many of us realize. The cats that share our homes aren't merely pets, but sensitive beings that interact with both the visible and invisible dimensions of reality. Their behaviors, preferences, and reactions can serve as windows into spiritual truths we might otherwise miss. Everything in creation speaks of the Creator, Padre Pio would often say. But some creatures, like cats, speak with particular clarity to those willing to listen. This teaching invites us to develop a more contemplative relationship with all of life, beginning with the animals that share our most intimate spaces. The essence of Padre Pio's message about cats isn't superstition or fear, but heightened awareness and spiritual sensitivity. He wasn't warning against cats, but rather encouraging us to learn from them and pay attention to what they might reveal about our homes and our hearts. Lucia Monteverdi, whose life was deeply influenced by these teachings, shares, "After my encounter with Padre Pio, I began observing my cat with new eyes. When she seemed unsettled in certain areas of our home, instead of dismissing it, I would pray there. So many times, this practice led me to discover aspects of my family life that needed healing, tensions I had been ignoring, conflicts left unresolved, or negative patterns that had become normal to us but were spiritually harmful. This is the gift of Padre Pio's insight. It awakens us to a more attentive, prayerful way of living. It helps us recognize that spiritual realities aren't separate from our everyday experiences, but interwoven with them in ways we often fail to notice. Father Gabriele Amorth, who knew Padre Pio personally, once explained, "The saint had extraordinary spiritual perception, but he believed all Christians could develop greater sensitivity to spiritual realities through prayer, attentiveness, and holy living." His teachings about cats were one practical way he helped ordinary people connect their faith to their everyday lives. Imagine how your relationship with your home and all who dwell within it might transform if you began implementing these teachings. Picture the sacred space you could create, not just through formal religious practices, but through moment-by-moment awareness of the spiritual dimension of ordinary life. Padre Pio's promise was clear. The soul that seeks God will find him everywhere, even in the mysterious behaviors of a cat. This is not about complicating your faith, but enriching it, grounding it in the tangible realities of your daily existence. The transformation begins with simple steps: blessing your home regularly, addressing conflicts promptly, creating spaces for prayer and silence, paying attention to the behaviors of your pets, and responding with spiritual discernment when something seems amiss. Marco Fuselli, whose family implemented these practices, reports, "The change in our home was remarkable. As we became more intentional about creating a spiritually healthy environment, not only did our relationships improve, but our cat's behavior changed dramatically. She became more peaceful, more present with the family, and stopped exhibiting the anxious behaviors that had concerned us. It was as if our spiritual growth and her well-being were mysteriously connected, just as Padre Pio taught." Remember his words. The peace of a household can be measured in many ways. Sometimes, the contentment of a cat is the most honest measure. This insight continues to guide countless families toward more harmonious, spiritually vibrant homes. If this teaching has touched your heart, I encourage you to share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Perhaps you know someone who loves their cat deeply and might be open to this spiritual dimension of that relationship, or someone who is seeking a more integrated faith that connects to their everyday experiences. Let us conclude with one of Padre Pio's most beautiful prayers, which captures the spirit of his teaching about our relationship with all creation. "Lord, may I see with eyes of faith the beauty of creation and the divine presence that permeates all living things. Help me to create a home where peace reigns, where prayer is constant, and where all creatures, human and animal, can flourish in your love. Amen. May the blessing of God and the intercession of Padre Pio accompany you always. May your home become a sanctuary of peace, and may even your cat's presence remind you of the sacred dimension of everyday life. If you wish to continue discovering the spiritual secrets of Padre Pio, subscribe now and activate the notification bell. What comes next could transform your life forever, and don't forget to share your own experiences in the comments below. Has your cat ever revealed something spiritually significant about your home? Your testimony might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of one of Padre Pio's most surprising and practical spiritual teachings. Until next time, may peace fill your heart and your home.